it's Lisa. I got a full tank and the Queen's in the back, so hop on in and let's hit the road.
Today I thought we would explore Little Italy and Lakeview Cemetery and see what we could find to interest us. Established in the late 19th century, Cleveland's Little Italy neighborhood retains a historic and cultural charm that allows visitors to experience the authentic lifestyle of the community. Located just east of downtown Cleveland and minutes from University Circle, Little Italy's quaint, walkable neighborhood is home to cafes, restaurants, shops, and art galleries that allow visitors to experience this historic charm. In the late 19th century, Cleveland's Little Italy neighborhood was established by the many Italian immigrants who settled in the area that is now Mayfield and Murray Hill Roads. Many were stone cutters, and they came to Cleveland to work on the grave markers and mausoleums of the wealthy that were buried in Lakeview Cemetery. They even worked on the Garfield monument of the assassinated president. Alta House is a landmark building in the Little Italy neighborhood. Constructed in 1900 by John D Rockefeller Sr. and named for his daughter, Alta Rockefeller Prentice, Alta House started as a settlement house for immigrants coming over from Italy. This was part of the settlement house movement, during which many immigrants who came to the United States were looking for a place where they could feel at home. One of the main purposes of Alta House was to help the community grow and to make the people better citizens. In part of this, Alta House early on offered immigrants a place to go for help for both food and board. It also helped people find employment and housing. With time, however, the responsibilities and services of Alta House expanded. For instance, it acted as a daycare for the parents who had to go to work and could not leave their children at home. Later on, it provided education for people of all ages in the community, as well as a safe place for children in the community to play and socialize. More recent responsibilities include helping the elderly with food and care, as well as other charities. Alta House has also had its share of difficulties. In the mid-1970s, a youth set fire to the settlement house several times. The city eventually decided to tear part of the house down in order to rebuild it. In the process, a new design was preferred for the rebuilding. Therefore, when the reconstruction of Alta House was complete in 1982, it no longer had the original appearance. But although its facade had changed, Alta House continues to provide its traditional services to the community, and so it does even today. Holy Rosary Catholic Church is a historic Catholic parish church in the Little Italy neighborhood of Cleveland, Ohio. Founded in the early 1890s, the parish completed the present Baroque-style church shortly before 1910. The building has been named a historic site. By the early 1890s, a strong Italian immigrant community had been formed along Mayfield Road on the eastern edge of Cleveland, and priests from the nearby community of East Cleveland began ministering to these immigrants. Their efforts saw success. The Diocese of Cleveland formed Holy Rosary Parish in 1892, and the first church building was erected by the year's end. Although Italian ties were strong in the community, they soon began to assimilate. Religious education for children was offered at the church as early as 1896. At one time, Holy Rosary was one of approximately 50 national parishes in Cleveland, due to the city's rapid growth via European immigration. It was the first Italian parish in the city. Many of Holy Rosary's earliest members were stone cutters, but their church does not reflect their craft. Its walls are brick, the foundation is stone, and copper and stone are used for various external details. In 1976, Holy Rosary Church was listed on the National Register of Historic Places, qualifying both because of its architecture and its place in the community's history. Now let's go up the hill to Lakeview Cemetery. Lakeview Cemetery covers 285 acres with the graves of early American settlers, 22 former mayors of Cleveland, soldiers from the Revolutionary and Civil Wars, and more than 100,000 famous and ordinary people, all resting peacefully together. U.S. President James Garfield died on September 19, 1881. Cleveland was chosen as the president's place of entombment, and after lying in state in the rotunda of the Capitol for 2 days, Garfield's casket was taken to Lakeview Cemetery by special train. Countless grieving citizens viewed the casket en route from the Capitol to Cleveland. The casket was sealed in a temporary crypt while the permanent monument was being constructed. Situated on a commanding hill in Lakeview Cemetery, the monument was dedicated on Memorial Day, 1890. The monument features a circular tower 50 feet in diameter and 180 feet high. built of native Ohio sandstone on a broad stone terrace. Around the exterior are 5 panels of bas-relief depicting Garfield's life and death. These panels include more than 100 figures, all of them life-sized. Inside the monument is Memorial Hall, a luminous space that features a sculpture of Garfield, red granite columns, a golden mosaic dome, and stained glass windows. In the crypt directly below the Memorial Hall are the bronze caskets of Garfield and his wife, Lucretia Garfield. An inscribed urn holds the ashes of the president's daughter, Mary Garfield Stanley Brown, and the urn of her husband, Joseph Stanley Brown. A stairway leads to a balcony with a view of Lake Erie, the Cleveland skyline, and 40 miles of the shoreline. The James A. Garfield Memorial was placed on the National Registry of Historic Places on April 11, 1973. The Collinwood Grotto is the memorial to the 172 children and 2 teachers who died in America's biggest school accident. The Collingwood school fire occurred on March 4, 1908, at the Lakeview Elementary School. The fire began shortly after 9 a.m. when an overheated steam pipe came in contact with wooden joists. Only 194 of 366 students escaped. The Collingwood School Fire, also known as the Lakeview School Fire, was a major disaster that occurred at the Lakeview School in Collingwood, Ohio. The Lakeview School was a fire trap. Similarly designed buildings could be found throughout the nation. During the fire, the school's masonry exterior acted as a chimney, sucking flames upward as the wooden interior burned. Open stairways and the absence of fire breaks enhanced the chimney effect. Lakeview had only 2 exits, and the fire quickly blocked the front door. Children rushed to the rear door, but in a vestibule narrowed by partitions, they stumbled and climbed on top of one another, forming a pile that completely blocked the exit. Though later accounts sometimes described children pinned against inward swinging doors, Lakeview's doors opened outward. The vestibule, however, created an impassable bottleneck for the crowd trying to rush through it. Collingwood's small volunteer fire department and horse-drawn engines arrived too late and were ill-equipped to battle the inferno. In less than an hour, the 3 floors and the roof of the Lakeview School collapsed into the basement, leaving only a hollowed-out brick ruin. The origin of the fire remains uncertain, though explanations proliferated. Newspapers circulated many possibilities, sometimes blaming the building's janitor, Fritz Herder, for inattentiveness and running the boiler too hot. Other times, girls smoking in a basement closet near flammable materials came under scrutiny. A quickly completed coroner's inquest concluded that heating pipes running next to exposed wooden joists ignited the building. The coroner blamed the fire on conditions and held no one legally accountable for it. Many parents condemned the quickness of the inquest and objected to its refusal to hold the school board, the architects, Herder, or anyone else responsible. J.H. Morgan, Ohio's chief inspector of buildings, explained the problem this way in his annual report to the governor and citizens. The cause of the fire cannot be determined. Many believe it originated from the heating system or boilers, but proof has been offered to the contrary. A memorial plaque placed at the site by the state of Ohio in 2003 agrees that the fire was of unknown origin. The town of Collingwood paid for the burial of 19 unidentifiable bodies in a shared grave at Cleveland's Lakeview Cemetery. Step inside the 4-ton bronze entry doors of Wade Memorial Chapel, and you'll be treated to one of the few remaining interiors totally designed by Louis Comfort Tiffany and his studios. Based on the theme The Voyage of Life, the chapel shimmers with Tiffany's signature Favreal art glass, where opalescent, iridescent, and translucent glass is layered to create rich, deep colors. The Favreal glass glows throughout the space, illuminated by the breathtaking focal point, Tiffany's awe-inspiring stained glass window, the flight of the souls that depicts consummation of the divine promise. Before being installed in the chapel at Lakeview, the flight of the souls was on view at the 1900 Exposition Universelle in Paris, where it was awarded a gold medal and hence remains an important example of Tiffany's highly prized ecclesiastical work. The luminous mosaic on the west wall of the chapel symbolizes the prophecy and the law of the Old Testament, while the east wall symbolizes the fulfillment of the laws of the prophets through the birth of Christianity. Both of the stunning 32 feet by 8-foot mosaic walls designed by Frederick Wilson were constructed in the Tiffany studios in New York and reassembled in Wade Chapel. Local architects Hubble and Benz designed the exterior of Wade Chapel, consisting of a pediment, columns, Ionic capitals, and portico, all in the neoclassical style. The chapel was built in 1901 in memory of Jephthah Wade, founder of the Western Union Telegraph Company and the first president of the Lakeview Cemetery. Wade Memorial Chapel was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in June 18, 1973. Eliot Ness, who was famous as the lawman leader of the Prohibition-era Untouchables. The site is on Lake Road in the cemetery in Section 7, but nestled between the small lake across Lake Road from Wade Chapel and Lake Road itself. The marker is technically a cenotaph rather than an actual grave. Though he died in 1957, Ness's ashes remained with his family for 4 decades. In 1997, the ashes were ceremoniously scattered over a pond near the Wade Chapel, and the cenotaph stands nearby. John D. Rockefeller was an industrialist and philanthropist. He rose from his position as an assistant bookkeeper for a Cleveland commission merchant to become one of the wealthiest men in the U.S. through his efforts in developing the Standard Oil Company. Born on a farm near Richford, New York, industrialist John D. Rockefeller died in 1937 and was buried in Lakeview beneath his 70-foot obelisk, the tallest marker in the cemetery. A short walk from the Garfield Memorial are the graves of billionaire philanthropist John D. Rockefeller and several members of his family. Rockefeller was born in New York State but ended up settling in Cleveland. The family obelisk is one of the tallest in the cemetery. Many visitors leave dimes at the gravesite in honor of Rockefeller's habit of giving dimes to children. This was probably the saddest grave in the collection, a Rockefeller infant who lived only 1 month and had apparently not been named. Known as the father of rock and roll, Cleveland's own Alan Freed was the disc jockey credited with first using the term to describe the emerging music of the early 1950s. As a local radio star and concert promoter, he helped introduce R&B music to the masses during a time of segregation. But the payola scandals of the late 50s would end his musical career, heading Freed into a spiral of alcoholism. He died from cirrhosis of the liver at the young age of 43. Freed's influence expanded beyond his Cleveland roots, bringing him at the height of his career to the New York powerhouse station WINS. He featured the music of Bill Haley and the Comets, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, and Jerry Lee Lewis, catapulting his show to a national audience through syndication. He ended up at the wrong end of the notorious pay-for-play scandal known as payola, promoters accepting bribes to play particular records. A charge he denied, but he couldn't outrun his damaged reputation. Freed was cremated and initially interred in a Westchester County, New York mausoleum. His remains were then moved to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where they stayed for 12 years, and then to his final resting place here at Cleveland's Lakeview Cemetery. His new contemporary gravestone tells his story, illustrated with a big old jukebox on the back, a design suggested by musician and Freed fan Stephen Van Zandt. Alan Freed's ashes were reinterred on May 7, 2016, and Van Zandt spoke at the ceremony. The Haserot Angel in Lakeview Cemetery was sculpted by Herman Matson in 1924. Its official name is the Angel of Death Victorious, or the Haserot Angel. You may not know the story behind the Haserot or the Black Angel Monument. You probably have seen the image of this gloomy angel more than once. This is the Black Angel named Haserot, and here's her story. The Black Angel stands over the graves of 3 people, a woman, her husband, and her son. This statue has a rather strange look. Most of the angels in the cemetery usually stand with their heads raised and their wings spread, symbolically striving for paradise. However, the wings of the Black Angel are not straightened, and she looks to the ground, to hell. Also, the Black Angel has a very grim expression with cold, strange eyes and empty eyelids. Many people are nervous around her. According to the visitors to the cemetery, they feel uncomfortable in the immediate vicinity of the statue. Besides, they claim that they thought the statue was following them. Harvey Pekar was an underground comics writer. He was famous for his autobiographical comic book series, American Splendor, which was later made into a movie. His grave is decorated with dozens of colorful pens left by fans. He was a Cleveland native. In addition to his comic, American Splendor, Picard made many appearances on Late Night with David Letterman in the 1980s and co-starred in the movie of his life, American Splendor, alongside Paul Giamatti. Well, that was our visit to Lakeview Cemetery. As you can see, it is a very peaceful place and many people enjoy walking through its beautiful grounds. Please like, share, and hit the bell.